Okay, welcome everyone to another one of our Hub Insight sessions. If this is the first one of these that you've joined, these are a chance for you members of the Digital Twin Hub to meet other members of the Digital Twin Hub and find out how people became involved with digital twins, what their background is, and what their kind of particular area of focus is in that space. These are our pre-recorded sessions. Please kind of watch them at your leisure, participate in the comments, jump on any discussion threads that stem off the back of these, and there'll be a really good kind of mechanism for driving the conversation around digital twins. So today we're joined by Anna Whitmore from Mott MacDonald. She's a senior consultant in the digital ventures space. And we're just going to start off by giving Anna a chance to kind of tell us a bit about her background. I don't know if you wanted to kind of start with jumping back to the university days and kind of where did you start in that
Yeah,
space?
we can go back that far. So I I studied chemical engineering at Auckland University. And I started with Mott MacDonald actually as a water process engineer. So designing wastewater treatment works and looking at optimization and project management. I moved over to the UK about 2018 and kind of decided I want to try something a little bit different. And they were just starting off this new digital ventures division. And I talked to kind of the team who were leading it over there, and it started really exciting. And I was really keen to kind of try it out. So I kind of jumped ship then and haven't looked back since, to be honest. I guess I moved back to New Zealand probably February this year, mainly due to COVID, and doing kind of a similar role over here. I guess one of the other things that kind of made me look at a more digital perspective is we've got a platform called Moata, which we used to use in the water space in New Zealand. So that's actually where it was produced. And it's now kind of grown to become the global digital platform for Mott MacDonald. So that was kind of another piece for why I started looking in the digital space. And so as a consultant, I kind of flick between doing advisory work. So got to work for a lot of really big clients over in the UK. It's kind of like when you work with like celebrities or something, because it was like Heathrow, Transport for London, Crossrail 2 was one of the first pieces of strategy work I got to do. Yeah, it was really, really exciting. And then also doing stuff on the platform side as well, which is the kind of developing and delivering digital twins for asset owners.
So how was moving over to the UK from New Zealand? How did you find that?
I like loved it. Don't know if, like, that's not swearing, is it? No, I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed working over there. The projects are really large and exciting, and I think it's a very different kind of pace. I think the UK has a lot more space to sit back and think about things and plan and come up with strategies. New Zealand and Australia are much more, let's just do it fast and learn. I think there's pros and cons to both approaches, but I really enjoyed working over there.
Did you get to do much of the touristy bits when you were over here?
Yeah.
Did
my
you have some highlights?
Had a really good trip to Norway, which I talked to everyone on my team about for about like a month after, so I probably can't talk about it on this interview, but yeah, this is really good time. Yeah.
Oh, that's really exciting. So, I mean, I'm assuming most people who are watching this are familiar with who Mott MacDonald are, but are you all right just to kind of talk around who MacDonald are as a company for those that aren't familiar?
Yeah, sure. So we're a global engineering consultancy. We're about 16,000 people, and we're in I can't remember the number of countries, but I'd say most countries in the world. Our like bread and butter is kind of engineering design. So like your infrastructure, water, transport, buildings. The team that I sit in, Digital Ventures, which as I said was created back in 2013, and there's kind of three main parts of that business. The first one, which is where I sit, which is the advisory, and that's looking at like kind of asset management, digital transformation, and innovation strategy, among other things. And it's all about helping clients kind of understand their data, get better value out of it. We've also got the platform pillar, which is where that Moata platform comes in. And I can talk a little bit about that, but it's basically all of our digital solutions. And then we've also got Ventures Arm, which is probably the newest of the three, and it's actually investing in infotech startups. Mm-hmm. So I think we've made about like 6 or so investments to date, and we're looking now to actually expand into Australia and New Zealand as well, which is quite cool.
Yeah, that's really exciting. So is the Digital Ventures team based out of the UK, or where's the kind of centre of it sitting?
I'd say the core is the UK, but like to give you an idea of the growth, it's been pretty exponential. So I joined, there's about 8 people in the team. It's now over 100. We're in the UK, wow. New Zealand, Australia, Singapore. Just going to have a team starting up in the States as well now. So it's, it's really growing. It's an understatement.
And when you kind of came to be involved in this space, was digital twins something you were familiar with, or was that kind of like, oh, that sounds quite interesting, I'd like to learn about that?
It's kind of funny. I think when I came over, it was kind of like the genesis for digital twins and infrastructure, like the Gemini principles had just been published and people were starting to get really excited about it. And it kind of was, we had a project that we were working on. It's with our platform lead, Tom Joseph, and one of our engineering design leads, Dan Buxton, who was looking at a treatment plant in Wales. And we were kind of talking about, okay, like what can we do to help the engineering team there with our plant commissioning? And we were saying, okay, we've got this platform, we've got some live data, we've got this biological model that we can run, and it's going to give us some insights about how the plant's going to operate. And we delivered this kind of pilot project at the same time in parallel, all this digital twin momentum was building. And then we kind of sat around and realized, like, oh, we've actually built one of those. Like, that's exactly what we've created. And I think that kind of, that was probably the first taste that I got for the concept. And it was a really sound one. And from there, it's kind of, the momentum hasn't really gone away. It's gotten more, if anything.
Yeah, that's really exciting. What do Mott have a kind of official kind of definition of a digital twin that they work off, or do you kind of have understanding how does it kind of work?
I steal the CDBB digital twin definition when I have to talk about it. Yeah. Although I think we've actually come up with another slight variation on it now, but to be honest, I'm not really a purist on the definition. I'm like, if it has some connectivity, has some data, has some analytics, solving a problem, then like, you know.
Yeah, I think, obviously, we're also big supporters of the CDBB definition, but we've always taken the view that let's be inclusive, let's learn from what people are doing and how people interpret it, and then we can kind of nail things down further down the road once the dust is settled, so to speak.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, you kind of briefly mentioned about Moata and being your kind of digital twin platform or technology of choice, whatever you want to call it, that's been developed. I'm going to kind of give us a bit of a kind of level description as to what that is.
Yeah, I can do. So I guess one of the things about digital twins, and probably one of the reasons I like it so much, is you can't buy it out of a box, right? It's not like, all right, here's your digital twin that's going to solve all your problems. Like every project I've worked on in that space has been slightly different, whether it's like the asset type, the sector, the scale, complexity, or what they're trying to look at. And so the way that our platform's kind of developed from when we're using it in the water space to where it is now is it's all about kind of having configurable, composable components that are going to then solve the problem. I might just share my screen for.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I'm disabled from being able to share it, but
okay. That might come through in a minute if Alexandra is listening in the background. But yeah, carry on it anyway.
So I guess if I was going to break it down, we've got kind of the underlying infrastructure at the bottom, which is like servers and security and access management. And then we've got a kind of components. So that might be like a mapping interface, 3D visualization. In the case of the wastewater, it's like biological modeling. And then we've got a set of products as well. So products are we've got like a smart water suite. So there might be like rain forecasting and flood forecasting and different products that can be configured. And then like depending on what the client is after, it's either a product that we have or it's bringing in those other solutions as well. So in the case of that wastewater one, right, they were like, we want to be able to optimize performance of this wastewater asset. And then we brought in, oh, there you go, I can share it now. This might be helpful. There you go. This makes so much clearer what I'm trying to talk about. So, oh, can you see my screen?
It might take a minute to come through. There we are. Yep, we got it.
Are you looking at?
Yeah, we've got client challenges at the top and Moata.
Yeah, perfect. Nailed it. Yeah, so this is kind of what I was going through before. So you've got that underlying infrastructure, the stuff that you wouldn't really see, the components that can be reused depending on the different challenge, and then the solutions that we've got. So going through an example, so we've got a lobby that means we can have all these different products sitting in the same area. Means you can have like single sign-on authorization and just make sure that you can access this location. The component here, you're looking at mapping. So I think a lot of digital twins at the moment are coming out and having like a geospatial interface. So being able to use that. And then this example is one of our products, which is Smart Insights, which is all about kind of project management reporting and being able to get more insights from having more different information sources being presented together. And then the idea is because you've got all these things that are like off the shelf almost, we can then kind of rapidly come up with pilots or different ways of pulling that information together to be able to solve whatever the problem is. I think I have this here for the wastewater example. So we had API integration with the biological model. We had platform security, data storage, user management, visualization. And then the domain times digital is kind of where the rest of Mott MacDonald comes into it. So we've obviously got digital ventures, but the bulk of our business are engineers. And we've got like a massive water sector. So we have the technology, but we really need those engineers there to be like, this is how you calibrate the model, or this is what's actually going to be really insightful for the operators to know, or we actually care about like this ammonia measurement on this plant. And they're the ones who kind of help us design the solution so that's actually really going to be really valuable and actually provide more value.
I mean, I think it's a really important point. Digital twins on their own don't really do anything. So per se, you need those kind of subject matter expertise to come into the equation so that you can actually work out what to do with the information that you're seeing. I think one of the bits to just be interesting to get your thoughts or your views on is, I saw on the example there, you've got predictive performance at the top of the stack. And obviously, I guess the hope is that decisions can be made off the back of those predictions that come through. The long-term, I guess, aspiration we're seeing with digital twins is that becomes automated or semi-automated in terms of those interventions that are made on the physical system. How's that kind of working at the moment? Is that generally, that goes either to somebody within the organization who's an expert who can make those interventions themselves, or is there a degree of automation that you're seeing?
Yeah, so at the moment, we've got it that it's like providing a user interface, and then the operator engineer gets information and makes a decision on it. We're still at that level, but we came up with this pilot. We've applied it now at a few places in the UK, a few places across Australia and New Zealand. And we've been working quite closely with our clients to be like, is this valuable? Are we going in the right direction? Like, do you think this is the future? And it's been actually really encouraging, because a lot of the clients we've been speaking to here have said, we know that it is, we're not there yet, but we think in 5 years, like we can see this is where everything is going. And that's why they're like, even though we don't have things perfect, we want to work with you to try and see how we can use this and get more value out of it. But I think, so that is the vision, right? That we get to a place where these things are autonomous. And sometimes, they've got like basic control loops and things in their plant, which you could argue are kind of there already, but this is a lot, kind of having that predictive stuff is really another step. I guess there's a few kind of key things I think that probably will need to be overcome before you can get to that autonomous place. And I think the big one is like data quality. So a lot of the sensors that you've got, especially in wastewater, they're really expensive and they're not accurate, or they like have to be recalibrated really often. And so half the time when we're looking at this thing, we'll be like, why did that sensor just jump up like that? That's definitely not true. And so until we can move towards soft sensors or something to help bridge that gap, which I think there's definitely some kind of interesting things being done in that space, that's a big issue.
Yeah.
The other one is you've got like people who've been operating plants for 20 years, right? You're like, here's a new piece of technology. I look at our graphs, make decisions on it. Like, that's a massive culture change piece. And so I think you can't expect that to just change overnight, that they're going to trust this application. But I think we've just been trying to engage as much as possible and kind of talk people through it. And I think it's trying to adjust the user interface to make it as easy as possible. But that's going to take time as well, I think.
Yeah, I think it's it's a fascinating topic. When people are watching this back, I'd be really interested in people to kind of put their ideas in the comments around what it is that's I guess prohibiting or discouraging people from going down the automation route, because as Hannah said, data quality is definitely a challenge, but culture is a huge piece as well. But I'm sure people have got other ideas of how we can address some of those challenges, or other challenges we might not have thought about. And I think, a lot of it's going to come down to trust, and trusting the data that they're seeing, and also working out what that delineation is between automation and manual intervention. Because as you said, process control systems have been using automation in some form for a long time, and people have become comfortable with that. But when you're starting to mount on integrated systems, you've got huge amounts of complexity coming in. Nervousness is going to inevitably creep into that. But it's not a problem, I think. And I thought the really nice thing to hear that you said was the customers, so to speak, are quite understanding about the fact that we might not be there yet, but we will get there. And I think that's a bit of a change. I don't know if you've got any thoughts as to why there is that kind of openness or kind of appreciation that we're seeing from people.
I think if we're sticking with the wastewater sector example, I think it is because they're getting, like, the challenges are increasing around their strategic drivers, their operating costs, their carbon. I think that the water utilities here are starting to put more and more pressure on them. And so maybe that now they're saying, okay, we need to think about how we optimize things more. Our old ways of doing it just aren't cutting it. I think that's probably one of the factors that they're starting to look at these different systems and try to get on board.
Yeah.
I guess one of the other pieces of work that we delivered earlier in the year was for Digital Twin Victoria. So that's a program that's been launched by the Department of Land, Water and Planning by the Victorian government, and it's they've just got approval for funding. It's a initial 3 years worth of funding to look at developing a digital twin for Victoria. It's going to be a spatial digital twin, and they've got kind of 6 different work streams focused on things like some of it's around information management space, some of it's around being able to automate approvals for housing, looking at faster recovery for different emergency responses. So it's a whole host of different digital initiatives that they've got going on. So we help them with implementation planning and benefits around there as well. And I think that's something that I don't think we would have seen a government do, a department do a couple of years ago. And I think that is probably partially because of the kind of global momentum that's building in the digital twin space. And so they've been able to put together a plan and get funding and actually drive this thing forward, whereas a couple of years ago, it might have been thrown out the door before it got started.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a bit of a question for you, just kind of stemming from that, and it's a bit of it's a slightly difficult question, but I'm just interested to hear your views on it. And I think what we've seen in some places is there is a degree of conflation between digital twins and kind of digitalization of things as a whole. Is that something you've seen as well? Is that something you have to do with kind of education of customers? It'd be kind of interested to see what your kind of interaction with that sort of problem's been.
Yeah, I think we've definitely had it with a few clients where they just say, I want a digital twin. And they're not really sure what they're talking about, or they know what the concept is, but they're not sure exactly what they want. And they've got a few probably digital initiatives that are going on that are potentially quite useful for their business and definitely things they should be doing. But they just see this word and the shiny object and they're getting a little bit like not sure where to focus their efforts.
Yeah.
So I definitely think, particularly in New Zealand, we've had that conversation a few times, and it's just because they haven't had, like, the UK's been thinking about this for years, whereas in New Zealand it's all kind of, it's still fairly fresh concept and people are wrapping their head around what it means. So I think I definitely have seen that, but like, I guess that's why I'm not a purist. I'm like, to be honest, you do need help with your data and your systems and the way you visualize and get insights. And like, if you're going to use this new thing that's getting momentum in the industry to push this initiative forward, like it's still going to help solve your business problems at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, that's very good to hear that kind of Mott are taking that approach. I'm sure there's other companies which are more inclined to just push technology where there isn't necessarily a problem that fits the requirement. And we've always been very kind of firm advocates of within the Digital Twin Hub and within the National Digital Twin Programme that the better educated the asset owners and the customers are as to what they need, the greater the quality of the solution that will inevitably come out. Because the more demanding the customers are, that's going to ultimately drive innovation within technology vendors, consultancies, engineering companies, all of those sorts of areas. And that's obviously something we really want to see. What would be, I guess, an interesting avenue to look at now is over in Australia and New Zealand, are you seeing some commonalities between the types of problems that people are looking to solve with digital twins, or is it a bit of a kind of just a mixed bag at the moment?
I'd say a mixed bag. I think it's definitely, we've got some really, really great examples like the Digital Twin Victoria one and some of the work we're doing with Sydney Metro, where it's like they're really getting some new insights out of the work that they're doing, but there's still just some I don't know how polite way to say it. There's still people who are just like jumping on the bandwagon and would potentially be pushing just a technology solution. But I guess that's why I guess we've got kind of the end-to-end with digital ventures, starting off with advisory. So if someone came to us and they think we've got these problems, we think that data or digital is going to help solve it, then we'd say, okay, let's just take a step back and say, what problem are you trying to solve? What is your current like data systems landscape? And start like at the very beginning to make sure that they actually have a strategy and that they're going in the right direction. And then if our platform has the right solution on it to help them, and that's great. But every piece of advisory we do is very much technology agnostic, if that makes sense.
Good. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good way of doing it, because I don't think we're ever going to get to the point where there is one solution that can solve all the problems. Moata, I'm sure, has its strengths, and other solutions, I'm sure, have their strengths as well. I think it's always about matching the right solution to the right problem. I mean, I guess it's interesting to hear that there is that kind of just general diversity in needs at the moment. I think we're starting to see over in the UK a little bit of kind of centralization around some of the kind of climate change related issues. That's obviously causing quite far-reaching effects. We've obviously then got things like decarbonisation of the energy network, and there is definitely starting to be some degrees of commonality around that space. But as you said, one of the huge challenges is just assessing their data estate at the moment, because that's not really something most organizations have done in any great degree of detail. And I mean, that quite quickly highlights the fact that a lot of it isn't even necessarily held by that central organization. It's held by parts of the supply chain, all of those sorts of things. Have you found that to be quite a difficult process, or quite an eye-opening process when you've gone through that with customers?
I think that having the issue where the data is held by supply chain or proprietary software is definitely an issue here as well. I think the thing that's been quite eye-opening coming back here is the application of BIM and how kind of early doors that is. Okay. And so that goes hand in hand with like not always a strong focus on information management. So I think there is quite a lot to do there to help get that foundational data. And I guess the other piece is obviously CDBB is taking that information management framework approach and thinking about how, like, the biggest picture, how you're going to get everything to be an interoperable solution at the end and get that value. And it's definitely not been the approach here, and I don't know if it ever would be, because of that difference in culture around strategy or just jumping in and doing things, which is, I mean, it's interesting. So we'll see how those two approaches play out, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, we're quite closely in contact with Adam Beck, who leads the Digital Twin Hub down in Australia and New Zealand. And it's always been quite interesting speaking to him to find out what's been going on that side. And it's always been a much more kind of, we're going to sit and wait and see what kind of goes on in the formalization space. And we're just going to kind of hit the ground running a bit in the digital twin arena. And like, that's obviously massively useful, massively interesting. We can learn loads from each other, but it does show that kind of need for that joining up across the countries as well, so we can kind of draw on each other's strengths and draw on each other's approaches as well. I'm conscious we've only got a few minutes left, so I'll just be interested to use kind of the last few closing minutes just to get your views on what is the next kind of big challenge in this digital twin space, or kind of what is your kind of big hope or aspiration going forward, I guess?
So I think that we're going to continue to roll out pilots and really good case studies. I think probably the biggest challenge now is going to be interoperability. My kind of vision, or where it could go, especially in the work we've been doing around water, is we've got wastewater now. We've started bringing in weather predictions. Can we bring in pump networks, water networks, wastewater networks, look at the receiving environment, like get the whole water network for one utility, all the assets mapped, and then start to optimize on a system level. And I think that is where the real value, like, that would be amazing if you could do that. But a lot of things would have to come together for that to be a reality across like the data, all the different systems that would need to be involved. So I think that's kind of where hopefully we're going towards. But I don't know how we do that on a scale.
I think
without an information management framework.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think there is no reason we can't do it. I think there's some kind of cultural and technology challenges that we need to overcome so that we can do it in a structured and repeatable fashion. But ultimately, these are achievable objectives. And I don't think organizations should be scared by the fact that it might be quite overwhelming at the start of just how many things are involved in a complex system like that. But yeah, with the right kind of expertise, the right guidance, the right tools available to you, it's all very much achievable. But yeah, again, please do add comments into the chat if you've got ideas around how we address some of those interoperability challenges, how we overcome, I guess, some of those historical challenges around proprietary data formats, which aren't necessarily solved problems. And I'm sure there's some people within the Digital Twin Hub that have got really, really good ideas about that. Have you got, as a kind of closing comment, have you got a where would you like to see digital twins in 5-10 years picture that you'd like to kind of describe for us?
That's quite a big question, isn't it?
It's always good to end on a hard question.
I would like to think that asset owners have a digital replica of their asset base. How intelligent it is, or how like the complexity of the analytics, I think, would really depend on the function. I think as well, you'd hope that you'll get to a space where things would be more autonomous, if not in 5 years, but at least in 10. So you're starting to get to a place where, you've got people who are there to kind of add value and look at optimization instead of doing the kind of the daily operations or maintenance of assets.
Brilliant.
I think that's achievable in 10 years.
Well, if we don't think we can do it, it won't happen. We can but try.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for joining us today, Anna, and thanks for everyone that's watched this video, contributed to the chats and the discussions. Hopefully everyone will find this as useful as I have. Always interesting to get different perspectives on things, and definitely trying to learn and understand about how things work in different countries, I think is absolutely fascinating. Really great to hear the work that Mott MacDonald have been doing, and to hear the approach they're taking with stuff. But thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day. And thanks again, Anna.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Great to chat.